Welcome to the Totally Adequate podcast, produced by Quest Analytics. Here, we dive into the latest news, policies, and innovations in healthcare provider network management with industry leaders who are shaping the future of care. Our mission? To elevate community health across the nation through superior provider networks.
Hi, I'm April Beane, and welcome to the latest episode of the Totally Adequate podcast. As you know, one of the things we focus a lot on here on the podcast is around provider network management and regulatory submissions. It's always top of mind, and it's because the stakes are high, the timelines are tight, and let's be honest, the work that you all are doing is very deeply human. And so today we're going to be talking about what support looks like when you bring together compliance, data, and most importantly, the people that are doing the work. For those of you who work in provider network strategy, optimization, performance, accuracy, I could list the list goes on and on, including compliance submissions. You know, you already understand that the work you do is complex. It's ever changing, right, ladies? And it's heavily regulated. And throughout the year, and we're going to talk a lot about this here today, I'm sure there are times that with your team's capacity and the work that you're doing, you just wish you could have an extra set of hands, some extra resources. Well, today I'm joined with Meghan Harrison and Perry, who are individuals who sit in the trenches day to day with health plans. Every single day going through these challenges. They are, in fact, those extra resources. And at many times they act as an extension to their clients' team. So welcome, ladies. We're glad to have you on the podcast here today.
Glad to be here.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, awesome. So let's just start right at the beginning and talk a little bit about what each of you do in your day to day. I think it's a good way to level set things at the beginning. So Meghan, I'll start with you just because you're on my right side.
Yeah. So I think, right now we're really in the trenches with federal submissions. And so that's the first thing that's coming to my mind, I guess. We're in the middle of initial and service area expansion submissions for Medicare and then gearing up for QHP. So, or marketplace submissions. So it's been, again, as of recently, it's a lot of let's make sure we're prepared for these things and we are proactive versus being reactive. And that's something that we really try to do all year round, not just when it comes to submission time, but it's really heavy work in that right now. We've got a lot of folks that we work with that are pretty green to it, and we have been around for a long time. We kind of know how this stuff goes. So we are there to kind of hold your hand through it, or our clients' hands through it. So I think that's top of mind. We've been working with some of these folks for me. I've been on the team for 9 years. I've had some clients that I've worked with for those 9 years, right? So understanding their goals, and just trying to get them to those next steps in any way that we can.
Yeah. So let me take it a step back just a little bit further. So, when people talk about client services, especially in SaaS, right, which is where Quest Analytics sits. I know both of you are on the Quest Analytics client services team. Client services, like I said, can mean a lot of different things in SaaS. And this is not a break it, fix it model. This is not a call center. Can you kind of give us a little bit of an idea how much deeper the client services team serves the clients that you have? What does it mean to be client services at Quest Analytics?
Us being client services, I always say you get a small but mighty team. I know everyone, even we support everyone from national organizations to, small regional organizations. And I think even with working from all those scale of differences in health plan size, we still bring tremendous value because we meet with them regularly. We help them navigate regulatory changes and like we have a whole team dedicated on the Quest side that helps us navigate those challenges and those like updates and new things coming out. And then we get relayed the information. So I say we're like the frontline workers there, but everywhere like behind us, like we get our dedicated teams, like we have all of our other consultants that we bounce ideas off of. And I think something that unique that we get to do is because we're servicing multiple clients. I think when our client asks us a specific question or is, going in the direction of, hey, we're trying to write this exception or do this differently for our HSD preparation this time. Like, can you just help us like understand, are we doing the right thing? Like, are we going in the right direction and having all the different insights from working with various people? I think we're able to help them and say, hey, you are going in the right direction. Or maybe you want to tweak this. Like I've seen, more success if you were to maybe tweak it a little bit. And I think that insight is really hard to get anywhere else because most of the times they're just working with their health plan like folks. And they don't really get to go out and talk to someone else at another health plan and ask, like, what are you doing on a day-to-day basis? So I think that's something that we get to do that's really unique and interesting. And, not only are we meeting with them on a regular basis? Like we're really helping guide them through all of their regulatory submissions. Like we're guiding them not only during the regulatory submissions, but working through our different, tools and new enhancements and releases that come out to support them to help try and close gaps throughout the year after the submissions are over, because there's always next year, there's always the next submission. It's like, what can we do in the meantime to help you guys be better prepared?
So I want to explain just a little bit too, because I probably was remiss in not doing that in the intro. But basically, the way you all work with the clients is there's a large client services team, and every time a new client comes on, they get assigned to a group, right? A group within the group,
A
if you
micro
will.
team, yep.
And you all are affectionately color coded, meaning it's
Mhm.
like the pink team and the blue team, right? And so so a client comes in and they end up with this group of people that are there to help to support them through their journey during the year, whether it's to help with what do these regulations mean, or how do I figure out why I have a gap. And we're going to dig into more about that. But you really are an extension of their team, right? I mean, so it's not a call center, it's not a call and fix. You're talking to these folks on a regular basis, right?
Yeah. And I think that too, like having us there as that extension of their team, not only like helps them in their day to day, it helps us understand what real world problems that our clients are having in this day and age too. And like we have a direct line to our product team, right? Like, so we're able to hear this feedback and and come together as a team. Like, is anybody else hearing this issue, with your clients? And it's like, this is becoming a thing that we have got to solve for. And so like we can help in that way too, right? Like we're communicating these things up. There's a need for X, Y, and Z. We got to figure it out.
I can only imagine too. You mentioned you've been with some of these teams for 9 years, 8 years. This is a long-term relationship. There's turnover that happens within organizations, right? There's loss of historical knowledge. It sounds like you kind of create a continuity to the team as well. How important is continuity year over year and being able to understand how the health plan or organization has grown, how their goals have changed? I'm assuming that plays a big part in the role that you do as well on.
Yeah, I think for us too, like I've experienced that myself where I've worked with a client and they've had total from leadership down to the adequacy team, like data management turnover, and even they turned over their like provider data management system. And so they were kind of starting off fresh. And something that we were actually able to support them with is, well, we have your historical data in QES. Like we have your time slices in the QES platform. Like we can see what you had before. Like for your Medicare Advantage, why don't we pull down the providers that you had from your last refresh and just see like how do they compare to your new like provider data management system? Like, is everything stored the way you need it? Like, do you need to have information tweaked? And being able to have have that background knowledge of before even all these new people came in, and being able to help them like through the transition. And for them, it was a, brand new team and going through a submission together as a first time. So each person had to kind of figure out what their role was in, having a successful submission. And we were definitely able to help them, understand like what each of the players do and like how all of that comes together at the end to have a successful submission, and like how important it is like that all of the people work cohesively. And then also highlighting for them that, Quest is a unified place, like QES is a unified place where everyone can come view that information. Like there's not spreadsheets that need to be passed back and forth between contracting and the adequacy team and, trying to share that knowledge like back and forth. You can go through those processes in QES and actually have a singular platform where everyone can view that information. And I think that also was really helpful for them going through that transition.
I am excited to hear more stories because I know you have a lot of them. I mean, you are in the trenches every day. You know the trends, you know what people are being focused on, where they're meeting challenges. But let's talk about submissions specifically. I know this is something, Meghan, you touched on. You're knee deep in it right now, right? Like this is the time. In particular with QHP and Medicare, in particular, I know when we talked previously, it's not really just about the act of submitting, right? It's understanding what you're being told after that submission. Like if there's an anomaly or if there's a problem, how do you interpret that? How do you understand that? And I know you play a big role in that. So I'd love for you to touch on that a little bit and maybe even include, what has changed recently that's made validations or submissions feel even more overwhelming of recent?
Yeah. So I mean, again, at the end of the day, what we don't want to be is reactive to things. And there's definitely been some changes with federal regulations and how like validations prior to submissions happen. And anyone listening to this that is in marketplace understands that these new validations that were implemented last year, it's a major change, and for good reason, right? Like we want the member experience to be awesome, which is why these have been put into place. However, folks that have been doing it for a while were used to doing X, Y, and Z, and it's absolutely different. So, like specifically the QHP submissions, there's a ton of new validations. There's this new framework that they have to abide by. Again, good reason, but it's just a very different way of having to do it. Yeah. And what a lot of folks were running into is when they went to submit, they're getting hit with hundreds of validation errors where they can't actually complete the submission. So we heard this, right? We were kind of learning it alongside of our payer clients, and we've put into place some pretty awesome validations that we can do that mirror the MPMS validations. But not only doing the validations, but we're helping translate, like, what does this actually mean, right? And now I think we're have been prepared to like, let's work this throughout the year. So again, we're not scrambling when it comes to submission time. We like are very prepared. We understand how we kind of need to work the data in order to submit without errors. And then in turn, get your adequacy results, knowing like, okay, if this is what I submit today, this is what the regulator is also going to see. And so you can go in confidently. And so excited about all the things that we've been able to put together for that. And it's definitely been a learning experience, but it's been really meaningful to me to be able to like step in and help in this time of need, really. So
on piggybacking on what Meghan was just saying, what are some of the struggle points that people are are experiencing when they get those validation results back? Are there some specific things to that you should be thinking about? I hear be proactive. You should be starting way earlier. Don't wait until the last minute on this. It sounds like you need some help figuring it out. There's definitely some struggle points. Can you walk us through some of those struggle points and how you're helping clients get through that in a way sooner so that they have that confidence that Meghan's talking about?
Yeah, and I think when the clients are in the trenches and like trying to work through their data and like transform their data so that it doesn't hit on the validations, it's kind of easy to miss things like, oh, there was a new document published by the, QHP on the QHP website that they should be referring to. There's an updated version of this. And there's a lot of, if you've ever been on like one of the regulatory websites, there's a lot of links, there's a lot of like PDFs, there's so much information in there. And even us just being able to consolidate all of that and say, hey, these are the key links that you need to have bookmarked. These are the titles of documents that you should be looking for. Like the dates might change, but we think they happen once a month or it happens every couple of months. So let's keep an eye out for that and just having like helping them kind of navigate those things. And not only that, we've noticed that, and we've heard back from our clients that once they submit their QHP validations, the format that they receive their um, validation checks in, like their validation errors, can be sometimes difficult to navigate, or it could be a little confusing to try and figure out what is being hit and where to find that in their actual like provider network. And so something that we did in Quest was when we mirrored those validation checks for QHP, we created two different document outputs, and one of them matches what Sasayo is going to give back to our clients exactly. And then the other one is more of a summarized version where it condenses things on an NPI level and will tell you which validations it hit on. And I personally also think that that version is much easier to navigate, and because you're just looking for the NPI and you're like, okay, this is the NPI I'm looking for. This is the check that it hit on. So I know that our clients have also found that very helpful as well when trying to, when you're looking through hundreds, sometimes if you're a big network, like 1,000 different validations, even just having that little thing to say this is an easier document to navigate can definitely be very helpful.
So outside of submissions, a lot of daily work happens. I know submissions, you're knee deep in it right now, but this is not something that's a one and done, like, oh, it's submission season, we have to pay attention. It is something that is just a day-to-day grind, right? And a lot of it is around answering this one maddening question, which is, why did this gap happen? Like all of a sudden we have a gap. Where did it come from? Why is it here? And so, is that one of the most common questions you get? How do you help them solve for that? Or what are some of the other just like outstanding questions you get from clients all the time? And how do you help them work through that? I know gaps is one. Some of it could be around reporting. Meghan, what's your take? What's the biggest question asked, or and how do you help our clients through it?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you hit on some big ones. I think at this point, like, there's so much functionality within QES too that like we do recurring trainings with all of our clients, right? But like it can be a lot, right? So it's like, oh, Meghan, I feel like we talked about this. How do I see X, Y, and Z, right? Like, and it's doing these like little micro mini trainings kind of constantly to make sure that they understand the tools that they have at hand. So, like teaching them, right, teach a man to fish kind of thing. So I would say just like navigating QES, making sure they're feeling really, really comfortable in any of these scenarios that kind of pop up.
So if the big question a lot of times is trying to determine why a gap happened, and what are some of the reasons, other than, a provider retired, there's a myriad of reasons why a gap could show up. And sometimes you have to do a little digging to figure it out. And is that where like time slices come into play? Like walk me through how you help uncover the mystery for people.
Yeah, for us, we have a very cool feature where you can compare time slices and see how your provider network changed. And if you actually open up the provider accordion, you get 3 different toggles. So you're able to see which providers matched between refresh to refresh, which providers were added, and then which providers were removed. And a lot of the times you can see, when a gap closed, which typically it's because a number of providers were added. And if a gap opened up, it's because a number of providers were removed. And that's kind of your number one place that you start. And then I think another thing that we've been incorporating a lot on our team lately has been we have a mapping functionality now where you can view your provider networks mapped out and you have the ability to choose time slices. So we've been encouraging our clients to, yes, like it's great to see on a serves percent basis which provider was removed to say, okay, our serves percent dropped. But then to a lot of our plans, knowing that regionally on where that sits within their service area is really important to them. So being able to map that side by using the 2 different time slices and either exporting that or even just having like a split screen to view that, then they're able to visually see, okay, where have our red dots, which are our members without access, like what part of the county has that? Is that the northwest corner, the southeast corner? Like, where should we be looking for our next providers? Because we can see that our member experience in this specific region was impacted, and that's what caused the gap to open up.
And if I could add to that, like I think too, like all of those things, yes, those are kind of our first checks, but we also do a lot of like quality checks. And so sometimes we'll find that like this provider all of a sudden popped up on a deactivated MPI list. Like they are not seeing patients at all, right? So like there's all these really cool quality checks that we're also doing that could potentially like suppress a provider. And this is where we can go back to clients too. It's like we want to make sure we're looking at these lists always as well, not just adequacy, because first of all, if this is a deactivated MPI, we shouldn't have them on our directory either, right? So I would just call that piece out too.
Yeah, or I mean, some of our checks are like missing NPI or invalid NPI because someone can fat finger an extra NPI in the number.
Yeah, that's
It's not the
that
right number of
human.
digits, or yeah,
Yeah.
or like something happened during the export and a big chunk of NPIs went missing and they're blanks and then they get uploaded. And so we have those checks, like we have the OIG excludes or Medicare opt-outs. All of those are something that we're checking for on our end, and we can, show back to our clients as well.
Yeah, I think it comes down to gaps don't just appear, they're created, right, by something. And the bottom line is, you are there to help assist in uncovering why a gap might exist. Also why a gap might come into existence, right? Like if you can, see ahead, read the tea leaves a little bit, some of those what if scenarios, working through, just again, sounds to me like everything's about being proactive, not reactive, and really working through your network constantly, right? Which we know that your clients do on a regular basis. It's nice to have you all there as an extension. I'd like to hear some of the stories. I know you touched a little bit on one of the client stories, or at least one of the use cases, which is, that continuity, that historical knowledge. I know specifically you talked about a particular client, and I know one too, but where you might have a new leadership person come in who maybe hasn't run this line of business before, and they haven't been at that organization. And so sometimes if you lose that historical knowledge, you're kind of starting from scratch. We talked about one of these examples during our discovery call. And so I wonder if you'd be willing to share a little bit more about that scenario and kind of what it's like to work with an organization when they're put in that predicament, right? And how we're able to help support that.
Yeah. So, I mean, a couple examples come to mind, but I think potentially the one we're talking about, like and this happens, right? People get promoted or teams switch around. And then we have to start from scratch, which isn't always a bad thing, right? And there was like an example of a team I was working with that we kind of really started from scratch. We got new data, new format, right? And part of the value that we bring is that we can work through that with you prior to like having that automated, right? And so something we discovered with said client was all of a sudden we were seeing a bunch of providers in the data that were non-directory facing, specifically Medicare Advantage data. And this right away, like, shut off alarms for us. And because you cannot submit providers that aren't directory facing for Medicare Advantage, that's a big no-no. And that wasn't something this group knew. They were brand new to the line of business. So we had that tough conversation. Like, hey guys, like, we don't want this to become a situation. So we need to nip this in the bud, like right now. And so adequacy looked great prior to that, but it's like, we need to look at this through a different lens. And prior to submissions, we need to figure out if gaps are going to open up because of this. And let's solve for it now before it becomes an issue. So that's like one big example. And that's come up a few times, right? But again, like, we've been doing this for a long time. So we know some of these little hacks that can kind of help you, and we're here to hold your hand.
Yeah, an example that comes to mind for me is going back to, like, when you have total turnover from the top to bottom and you get this new data management system, and they're like, they don't even know where to start, right? And we're trying to guide them through the process. And they're like, we should try to pull a document or pull a file out to see what providers you have in your system right now. Like, how are they documented? Are they documented with the correct information? And then what we actually ended up noticing on the facility side is their new system was just marking them as multi-specialists. Well, who are multi-specialists? Like, they're obviously seeing multiple types of, they're providing multiple types of services, but multi-specialist isn't very descriptive.
Right.
And for Medicare Advantage, like, they have to know per specialty line for facilities. So we were able to help point that out to them and say, whoa, like, when we uploaded this new data set from your new provider data management system, like, we're seeing massive drops in your facilities. And, gaps opening up here and there can be understandable because you've had some time pass, and I'm sure you've contracted with different types of providers and let some go. But this large amount of gaps in facilities is kind of alarming because, hospital systems aren't just disappearing and facilities are being dropped on a random Wednesday. So we said, let's dig into this. And we ended up digging into their data. And it was that most of their facilities were coming over as a multi-specialist. And said, okay, we need to either, find a solution within your provider data management system or find an alternative solution in the meantime to help you guys get to your, so that your adequacy is reflected correctly, so that we can figure out what facilities are providing these multi-specialists specialties. So we were able to help them navigate that, and their adequacy actually went from tanking to kind of back to what it was before the new team started. And it was really helpful to even have that historical data before that team came in, because we could kind of use that as a benchmark to say, okay, maybe if you're in like somewhat of a range close to this previous data, we're going in the right direction. So having that was really helpful to help navigate them.
Yeah. So I don't know how anyone navigates without having some extra resources around. It sounds, there's just a lot that can pop up, right? And you need to know how to manage it and how to dig into the why, right? And it sounds like you spend a lot of your day doing just that. Now, we did talk, compliance is foundational. No one would argue that. But it's starting to no longer be the finish line. And so I'm curious what trends you're seeing from the field with our clients as they're starting to look beyond, the no gaps idea and starting to look toward optimization and performance. I mean, what are you seeing as far as other metrics, other things that you're helping clients with? What are the trends that you're seeing now as they're starting to look for more performant optimized networks?
Yeah. like directory audits have been massive as of late, right? It's a industry-wide issue. And so like if a member's calling from the directory and you're finding out that provider, first of all, the phone number doesn't work or they're not actually at that location, right? Like this is something that members are dealing with every day. And so that's become, I think there's been a microscope on that as of recently. So again, like there's some very cool tools that we can use with inside QES, and it's kind of our job to help highlight those too. Like we're sitting at 100% adequacy right now, right, guys? But but again, we're not like painting the whole picture. You know, we might look and use some of these new tools and we can see you've got a bunch of ghost providers here. Like it, according to the claims data that we're looking at, like they're not actually seeing patients for this line of business, or according to the location confidence, we're pretty certain they're not at this location. And removing those providers, making your network really work for your membership group, right? Like could open up gaps. And so again, just doing time and distance, you can look great, but when you really dive in, you might notice like there's some pretty big red flags here that like we need to address. And so I think now as a team, what we're trying to do is like, we have to do the network adequacy piece as well, but there's just so much more to it that we want to make sure we're like highlighting for clients. Like this is something we need to work on as well. And so there's been a really big push with that kind of thing.
Yeah, some of the biggest trends that I think we've been seeing for sure is like network accuracy. There's been a lot of regulatory focus on a state level and I think somewhat on a federal level to say, like, is your network accurate? Like, I know you're saying you have all contracted with all of these providers, but can members actually go see them? Are they located where they say they are? Like, do they have the right licenses? You know, what kind of claims information do they have? And having that accurate network, I know has been kind of a big shift in focus for some of our clients. And I think another one is building a quality network, right? There's a difference between just meeting the federal standards or the state standards that are set by your regulator than to actually have a quality network where are you only putting the addresses where members can go consistently go see a provider? Like, are your providers consistently seeing members like they say they are by looking at claims information? Like our claims is looking at 12 months plus a 3-month like look back period. So it's 15 months. So it's a pretty substantial amount of time. And if you have a provider that's very low or ghosts, like that's kind of alarming. You've been contracted with a provider for a year or 15 months that hasn't seen any Medicare providers or members or hasn't seen any commercial members. And so I think it can help bring a lot of that insight to our plans, and something that some of our clients who have PCI license have been looking into is, well, let's evaluate our network from the inside. Do we have any low efficiency providers? Do we have any, low cost providers, which means they're high cost? And like, what happens if we were to remove some of them and start to look outside the market with our providers that we're not contracted with to see maybe if we can fill those back in with some higher quality, higher cost saving providers, so that not only is it something beneficial for our organization, but it's also beneficial for the members because they'll have a better member experience.
Yeah. What do you wish other teams, other organizations understood? And I guess what I mean by that is, what advice would you share with those listening to be better prepared? Not just for, regulations, but for meeting those member needs. We've talked about a lot of things over the course of the podcast, but if you were to offer up, the top 3 things you think, regardless of, what solution they use or how they're doing their network management, what are the 3 things you think you would offer as advice, knowing what you know because you deal with this on a day-to-day basis? Meghan, why don't you start?
Yeah, I think working the solution year round, right? So don't just start excluding or starting like our exception narratives right before submission times. Like work this year round, right? Because then we're again fire drills. We want to eliminate as many fire drills as we can. So that's one thing. I would say bring all hands on deck. When we see clients that have their compliance team, provider relations team, their analysts, they're all ingesting the same thing, working from the same platform. They are much more organized about like how they go into these things. They're all starting from the same spot versus left hand isn't talking to the right hand, because that's a major issue that we see. It's like their compliance officer has one thought and the analyst has a very different thought, right? Like, let's get them all in one space. And there's tools in QES for every like sector within the organization, truly. And I would say just kind of really, again, chip away at this stuff that's maybe not network adequacy necessarily, but like the cleaning up our network. Let's get rid of those deactivated NPIs. Let's get rid of those ghost providers to make us more marketable.
Yeah, your network's a strategic advantage, right? I mean, it's not just compliance. It's a strategic advantage. Did you have any advice?
Yeah, I like to tell my clients consistency is key. So even whether you're using QES or not, like you should be looking at your network consistently, because trying to understand your network and how your network has changed 3 months before a submission, that's when fire drills happen, like Meghan said. And so, I mean, even if it's just once a month, every other month, I mean, we have clients doing it as frequently as weekly, but just having that consistency of looking at your network time month over month so that you can look at the trends, you can prepare for any of the things coming up. I think that's really important. And then I know Meghan said this 1,000 times, but be proactive. Like, please be proactive. Like, be excluding your providers. Like, I- if you know that you're going to have to submit an exception or you have to prepare for a regulatory filing, don't do it a month before. It's never going to go well. Like, just start throughout the year. Just take little chunks throughout the year so that you're not having to like look at this big, massive like thing and feel overwhelmed and not know where to start or anything like that.
I can feel the passion from both of you. So I am going to ask a little bit on a personal note. I mean, you have these relationships with these teams and these organizations for years, right? Like you and your team service multiple clients, but you're in meetings with them monthly. And the title of this whole episode is that you can buy software, but you can't buy a partnership, right? Like that's what you guys create, what you both are creating and the team is creating. So, what makes this job fulfilling for you? What does it mean for you?
I shouldn't say this sounds goofy, but like when I get a panicked client call and we can hop on a call, like Meghan, I got something going on here. I need help. And I can hop on a call and we can come up with a solution together and we can like save the day. Love that feeling. I love that over the years I've worked with some of these folks that like the trust I've gained, like maybe there's some apprehension when you like first license Quest and there are these people that are trying to tell me I need to do X, Y, and Z. But kind of like earning that trust and being that trusted partner has been a really cool experience. And Like I've had folks that have retired that I've worked with, right? And it's like, it feels like a breakup. It's because you get embedded with these folks, right? And it's like I'm getting pictures of grandkids or the new dog or right, like we're talking about how Christmas went. And so it's personal. It's personal too. We feel that they're as much of our team as they feel like we are part of their team. So it's really rewarding when you get to, these are real people going through real issues and we get to save the day. And I love that.
And what about you?
Yeah, I agree 100%. There's a lot of times when we interact with, customer service or, anything like that. It's just, hi, what's your problem? Did I solve everything for you today? Like, have a good day kind of conversations. But for us, it's like, did you have fun at Christmas? Oh my gosh, you got married. Like, how was that? Like, just went on your honeymoon. Like, I hope you had so much fun. And being able to bond in that way, but then also knowing that they trust and kind of respect your judgment in certain situations to say, you are the first person or our first line of defense almost. Like if we're unsure about something, we'll just come to you and ask you. Like we'll just hit you up and just say, hey, like even in an email, it's like, are we looking at this the right way? Like, what are our next steps? And even if our response just is, I think it's best that you reach out to XYZ, resource. But just knowing that we were their first choice to come ask like these questions or bounce ideas, like that's really rewarding. And what's been really rewarding is knowing that when clients say to you directly that, oh, there's other vendors that we can choose to do network accuracy with, but we love working with the consulting team. Like we don't get this type of treatment at other places. And like, we don't love working with some of our vendors, but they're our only choice. And to know that there's many choices out there and they'll choose us to grow like with us is very rewarding feeling because that means they're satisfied with what we're doing with them. They, love having us and being our partner. So that's a really good feeling.
I have to bring it up because Vision Quest, which is our annual conference, is next month. And I know both of you will be there. And it's one of those opportunities where you actually get to see your clients face to face and meet them in person. Tell me what that's like. Cause I mean, I've been there, I've witnessed it, but you tell me what it means to you when you actually, get to see in person at Vision Quest, and talk with your clients face to face, IRL in real life. What's that like?
I love having an opportunity. It makes everyone more human, I think, too. Like we live in this very virtual world and getting to like sit down and have lunch with this person that you talk to on a weekly basis, but we're talking about the data issues we're having that day, right? But we get to like catch up on a very human level. So I think it really humanizes everyone. So I love that piece of it. I love seeing them kind of outside of the environment that we normally see them in too. Can let loose a little bit and just really enjoy their time. It's super rewarding.
And any thoughts?
Yeah, this is my first Vision Quest, but I'm really excited.
You haven't got there yet, so you don't know. But what are you anticipating based on what you've heard?
Well, a lot of excitement because even when I've told clients, like when we found out that I was going to be attending, I was like, hey, you guys should like really try to come. Like I'm going to be at Vision Quest this year. And they're either super thrilled or they're like super disappointed that they didn't get to make it this year. And it's just like, you could even feel it through the screen where they're like, oh my gosh, I'm like so excited to finally meet you. It's like I've been talking to this square on a computer screen for 3 years now and I've never seen you. So I'm really excited.
Yeah, it's a very unique experience. And ladies, thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing your story. I've been taking notes throughout the podcast, and I came up with 3 things, I think, that you should remember coming out of the podcast today. And hopefully I've summed this up pretty well. But One is that compliance is complex, right? And anyone who's in this industry knows that. But as you keep saying, preparation beats reaction every time, right? So keep managing it throughout the year. Don't be just reactive at submission time. It is something that's fluid and you need to stay on top of throughout the year. 2, data without context creates risk, right? So you really need to dig into the data, really understand the why behind the data. One provider in Medicare Advantage's data may be very accurate. It may not be accurate on the Medicaid, on the Medicaid side. So context matters. And 3, real partnership is built over time. It is not a transaction. You are both proof of that. So thank you for coming and sharing your story. Back to the title of the session, you can buy software, but you can't buy this kind of partnership. And I loved hearing your story. So thank you so much. And for all of you that have tuned into the Totally Adequate podcast today, thank you so much for joining us. We know you have a million podcasts you could listen to, and we're glad you chose ours. Please give us some feedback along the way. We like to improve the show based on what you tell us. So rate us, give us your rating, give us some feedback. We'd love to hear from you. I'd like to thank our producer, Sophia Timmermeyer, for her work here today, as well as our production company, Fowler House Films. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Totally Adequate podcast. If you enjoyed it, we'd appreciate it if you could rate us on Spotify or leave a review on your preferred podcast platform. Your feedback helps us grow and bring you even better content. We also invite you to send us any comments or topic ideas by emailing us at thetotallyadequatepodcast@questanalytics.com. The Totally Adequate podcast is produced by Fowler House Films and Quest Analytics. Thank you for listening.